Recording. All right, Pro Pump 101 here. Backed by Product One, Health Performance, Victory Multisport, Battle Tested, Man, Fran, Token Choke. Make sure to follow everybody out there. And again, I'm here at UFC Veteran. Give an
Hey,
introduction, your name, give an introduction of your name and what what you've been up to, and a little bit about yourself.
sure. My name is Philippe Nover. You might have met me or seen me years ago on The Ultimate Fighter, Season 8 in 2008. Then I fought for the UFC for quite a while. I retired back in 2017, and man, I've been busy with. I'm a nurse practitioner. I work in cardiology. I'm still a big fan of the sport, and I still train jujitsu. So just living the grind now, always grinding. Even though I'm not fighting, I'm always doing something.
Yeah, I mean, like when you were fighting, I seen on your couple of your fights, you were transitioning a lot of stuff, and it looks like you were mixing it up a lot more, right? In different styles and everything, and you're a lot of takedowns and stuff. But I'm gonna ask you, how did you get into like the fighting scene? Like, how did you get into that scene, and then how did you work out when you're younger, or how'd you do that?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, my parents enrolled me in traditional martial arts originally. So, and I always was a fan of sort of learning about the human body and appreciating the human body. So they enrolled me in martial arts, and that was my sport. They said, "Which sport do you want to do?" And I tried team sports. I wasn't really a big fan, so I I decided to do martial arts. I did traditional martial arts like Jeet Kune Do, Southern Mantis, Kung Fu. I did. It had a variety of martial arts. It was called Universal Defense System, and I started there when I was young, at 9 or 10 years old, with my brother. I also, so I continued on that path, but I also got a little bit of trouble in school. I think grade school and high school, I was getting into fights a lot. So then I kind of got more seriously involved in the martial art world. And then at the same time, MMA was sort of coming to the scene. No one really knew what it was. My first pro fight was in 2003. So this is a while ago. This is 20 years ago. I had my first pro fight. Um, and we didn't even have a differentiation between pro and amateur. At the time, the only thing that was like known was obviously kickboxing, and they had Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I did gi and no gi jiu-jitsu grappling tournaments like Naga, Grappler's Quest. So that was sort of popular. Very small niche community of people who did it. Then MMA sort of hit the scene when the UFC in the early 90s, and also Pride and a few different things. So um, I transitioned from doing traditional martial arts and sort of point sparring, contact sparring, martial arts. And then I said, hey, I had a training partner. His name was Nardu Debra, and he also trained in the same gym as mine. And he started fighting like professional MMA. And at a young age, man, I had all like the push. I was so excited to try this. It was totally new. No one knew what it was. And then I had my first pro fight. Man, that was in 2003 in New Jersey. And, I continued the path. The game is completely different now if you ever want to try.
Yeah.
So it is completely different. The level of fighting has developed so fast, I think, and the knowledge is constantly being developed. So, you know, it's a different game now, that's for sure.
Yeah, I started fighting back in when I did mix. I was a wrestler, and then I went into fighting. It was like 2009, and then
Yeah.
I took like 6 months off. And when I went in there, nobody, like you're saying, nobody knew anything about the mixed martial arts scene. Nobody knew about any of that. And so you
Yeah.
used to get these. I don't know if this happened to you, but I mean, I tell this all the time. Even Uriah Faber says the same thing. Is like they used to, when the guy backed out of your fight, they used to take a guy out of the crowd, and he used to fight that guy.
Oh,
And
man.
it
Yeah.
happened. There's an older guy that knocked out a young dude, and he was 60, like 62 years old, knocked out this 30-year-old kid, and got
Wow.
millions of views on YouTube and everything. It was insane.
That's impressive. Yeah, back in the day, it was a little. I tell you what, I had similar interactions like that. Luckily, I never pulled anyone out of the crowd, though. But I've I've participated in MMA events that were not necessarily sanctioned, in facilities that were definitely not supposed to have MMA fights, in New York where there was gambling going on, like really underground stuff. So, this is when no one really knew what was going on. And, obviously we've come a long, long way. But yeah, I was involved
Mhm.
in that scene, I tell you that much. a,
No,
a lot of
it was
the
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, it was amazing because a lot of the like nowadays, like with my when I won like all these fights and everything, now they didn't report them back to the MMA, underground. They didn't report
yeah,
anything. And so I
yeah,
was like, well, why didn't they report it? Well, then I talked to a lady, and the lady told me because they weren't supposed to be in the promotion deal or license and all. So I
yeah,
was like, okay.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
was kind of weird.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
crazy.
mean, but like you're saying, the breakdown of the jujitsu and the wrestling, and I actually had a guy I fought. I fought in front of Rich Franklin in 2009,
Yeah,
and he came in belt, and he stood
wow,
there and he was giving autographs and everything, shaking hands,
cool.
just a meet and greet kind of thing. And he's watching. So I fought 135 pounds. So then I'm fighting this guy. I get fight of the night, and this guy I was fighting, he had like a one dimension, right? You have all these fighters
Yeah,
out there, there's one dimension at a time. And
yeah,
so I was training. I was actually training where Matt Hughes is. Some of his coaches helped him out to in the UFC at the time. So that was pretty.
cool. Yeah,
So no, the to now, like you're saying too. I mean, it's so different compared to back then than it is than now because now the evolution of the fighting game has increased. Look at UFC, look at Bellator, PFL, One Championship, and all these other mini local organizations, and
yeah,
even the UK. You got United. You never used to hear about United Kingdom. The fighters progressing that
yeah,
quick over there. Now all
yeah,
of a sudden they're all.
yeah.
So I want to ask you a question on that, Mo. When you got into this scene and you seen like, all right, they're not moving as quick. I have this background. How did you? How did that benefit you into your fighting career to move forward? And you're gonna pretty much quick move up.
Can you say that again? You kind of broke in and out. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
When you got to the fighting, when you got like you said, all these guys out there, you know, um, there's one dimensional, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
but you were very diverse. It looked like, and it sounds like.
yeah. I
And
think, yeah, I
go
would
ahead.
say I think I was definitely at times I was a little bit ahead of the curve at times, and that's how I think a lot of fighters should try to, if they're going to develop their skills, they really got to look at how the fight game is evolving and just be slightly ahead of the curve. If your moves are not developed, if your moves are sort of outdated, um, you're gonna get learned very quickly. You have to be on top of all the newest techniques, and have a really good base of technical skills. Like there's obvious skills that are necessary as a basic level of skill, but there's also like little skills that you could keep developing and strategies that keep developing. You can't stay that one-dimensional fighter. People could get away with it years ago, back in 2008, 2010. I would say just in the last 5 years, every fighter, at least on the top 10, has to be multi-dimensional with such a variation of strategies that you can apply to your opponent based on what he's good or bad at. So, I feel like anyone could be anyone right now in the top five ish, top three ish. It really comes down to what strategy are the people going to apply to each other. And the game has evolved to that level where it's really scientific now.
And then do you believe like a lot of times, I know you've been in UFC, you've been on the big scenes. Do you believe sometimes that the media and uh and the crowd can really get to a fighter at times?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. The fight game is a mental game. The media could, all those things can sort of penetrate into a fighter's mind and kind of mess with them. If you have media that is saying that a fighter is going to lose a fight, and or if the crowd is booing, obviously these things can all take a role. But this is the fight game. So I remember I fought in Brazil, and everyone was screaming, you're gonna die in Portuguese to me when I fought Renan Barão, and I just. But some fighters get fueled by that. I actually felt more comfortable in that scene, getting like booed and everyone hating me, and I just felt like obviously I had like nothing to lose type attitude, and I was like, let me just go out and get it. Versus I felt definitely more nerves when I fought like locally, when I got more pressure, when I fought in Brooklyn, when I fought in Manila, in front of my cousins in the Philippines. I was like a little more pressure. Obviously, these things can take minimal effect or great effect depending on how good your mental game is. But yeah, that's definitely a factor.
When you like you're saying when you fought Randall Brown, and he was a very good fighter, right? Very good fighter,
Yeah,
and you were a top of your line. You both were, and I was wondering, how did you feel in that moment when you went to that fight and before when you went to the cage and you heard that? Did it really did it pump you up probably to do better right in the cage?
for
And
me, yeah, yeah. For me,
how was your strategy or game plan? Did it still stay the same? And did you have to tweak it up sometimes? What right?
I remember that fight very well because I wanted to imply a striking game plan. I came off a fight before that. I think that the UFC didn't like. They didn't like that I sort of over wrestled. I went to I sort of never put my pieces together as best as I could. Obviously, always looking back, and you always should have, could have, would have. So my previous fight before that, I know they put me in a fight. I either over wrestled or something where I know the UFC they want bangers, man. They want guys to go in there, and strike. Which I understand because that's what the crowd pleaser is. But you got to formulate a game plan that's going to also protect your chin and the years that you want to continue fighting, and also please the fans. So, but for that fight, a Renan Barão fight, I really wanted to sit a bit more on my punches, and I did. I definitely stayed in the striking range with him. I didn't pull the trigger as much I wanted with my right hand. I thought I should have developed that more and just committed. And I didn't wrestle him. He wrestled me, and he took me down. I remember at the end of the round just to solidify the judges to give him that fight. So it was a strategy that beat me. But I think if I really strategize more to sit on more power punches, sit on my punches more, maybe score a takedown on him at the end of the round instead of on me. But it was shoulda, coulda, woulda.
No, he was like people don't understand. He was you went against one of the best, right? The champion that they say to this day. People just keep forgetting about him. I don't,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? They just like, and I don't understand that people just forget about him. Like he wasn't the champion for how long? He was for years. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. The
and and that's
135,
why, yeah,
right?
that's why. And he was
Yeah,
hard to beat. He would go in there. It was him and Jose Aldo, right? And then people want, both weight classes, and people are like, had to try to beat him. They couldn't beat him. So on
yeah.
that note, when in the UFC, when you signed with the UFC, how much did that give you? Like, like a very, how much pumped up did you give you and everything?
Uh, you know,
Career
uh,
wise, sorry, career wise, I'm saying, like as
oh,
a fighter.
yeah. I mean, I know that when my manager gave me the call to fight him, it was super exciting, man. I was like, you know what, this is it, man. I'd love to go into enemy territory and put everything on the line. And I knew at the time I was a little older, and I was like, this is it, hit it or quit it. I trained real hard for that one, and my performance obviously, I thought that I could have done better,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. That's how the fight game was. I was super pumped though. I was super pumped with taking that fight.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. I know that was a huge fight for you, and I watched a little bit of it, and like I said at the end, like you're saying, takedown wise,
Yeah,
it was very intriguing because of you guys had back and forth strike. I like the striking game too.
Yeah.
I like the mixed martial arts side of it. So it's very, very cool to see the what level everybody's at. And you could tell by the levels of the fighter. So that was really awesome to see that. You did a great job against them too. So I would
Thanks.
say you both, and you both are like top level fighters, People
Thanks.
people a lot of people want, I know Dana White wants those bangers, and he wants to get people knocked out in the UFC and everything. But sometimes you can't. So fire is that good. Sometimes it's gonna, you're gonna have a great fight still, but sometimes you can't get that knockout. A lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Um, so when you were down at UFC, and then you transitioned to what you're doing now as a job,
Yep.
and what made you want to get into that? When about I know you're interested about the body and everything, but what really did you want to like, always do a career what you're in now?
When I was younger, I actually was balancing both. So my parents said, "Oh, you want to be into martial arts? You want to compete? You have to go to school, get your degree." So I actually went to nursing school, got my degree, was a registered nurse, and balanced both. I did quit for a few years as a nurse, and continue my fight career, but the fight career is not stable. So it's a different world. If you're going to get a check every 2 weeks and you have life insurance, health insurance, 401k, 403b, union representation, bonuses. I mean, this
Yep.
is the security of a job that pays amazing. So it's like, but you still want to pursue the dream career and be in the top five so you can make it. But you gotta sort of balance. You gotta sort of. I was burning the candle on both ends, but at the same time, as age creeps up, reality is going to set in. And I was lucky enough though that I had good parents to push me to get an education and always get educated. Yeah, so I kept going back. Since I retired, I went back to school for my master's degree in nursing. So I work in cardiology now. I work in cardiac cath lab. Um, I've been doing this for quite a while. I'm also a professor for a college in New York City for a nursing school. So I do a lot. My students don't know that I used to beat the shit out of people for a living, but sometimes they find out I'm very good at Google and stuff. So
I
I
had
low. I don't want to scare them.
Frank Shamrock say that Frank Shamrock was talking to me, and I asked him. I said, "Do you still go back and forth?" He's like, be honest with you, he's like, I don't really take. He looks at some of the fight stuff and everything, but he just does a lot of talks now and everything. But he said
Yeah.
his child does not you know know anything about his fighting. What he fought and everything.
Oh,
Nothing right now.
yeah.
And it's amazing because he says he's very he's very very respected in the industry and everything. I know that.
Legend. Legend.
And a lot of people, like, I believe when he did it and he was talking about it, he just, he's I was just an honor to talk to him, right? Like, yeah, honor to talk to you too. And it's just amazing because a lot of the generation coming up, they don't understand, like what you said about the fight game, how
Yeah.
it can, they could just forget about you.
Oh yeah.
People, and they don't understand who really helped make, right,
Yeah.
the industry to where it is now, because
Yeah.
in all reality, every fighter that's been through the UFC and through the Bellator and the PFL and won championship, I believe they helped build what they have today. And if they didn't have those fighters at the time, they would never, be where they're at pinnacle wise. So it's amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. The fighters were pretty much the backbones, the building blocks of the mixed martial art game and the UFC. So you know, um, the deep fans know it. The hardcore fans know the old names and everything. um, but you will get the occasional fan who doesn't know who George St. Pierre is or something. So,
No,
especially the newer ones.
I still can't believe that. I can't
Yeah,
believe people are when people said Izzy was better than Anderson Silva, I didn't agree with that. I
yeah,
didn't
I
agree
would.
with,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, he's definitely debatably the GOAT for me. I
Yep.
thought he may be the GOAT, but uh, you know, as the era generations change, people get better, people strategies change, but he was probably one of my biggest inspirations as a fighter for sure was Anderson Silva.
It was amazing seeing how he trend, Anderson, how quick he was speed wise and everything. Nobody could do anything about it at the time or how
Amazing,
long. It
amazing.
was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Everybody like his prime was like if we, Izzy, I know Izzy's very good. Izzy's awesome.
yeah,
But to
yeah,
do how long Anderson Silva did it in the championship wise, that's
yeah,
what really shocks me, like how he did it,
yeah.
and everything. But I mean,
I,
like I said, you're the way what you're saying, a lot of people I believe, like I'm going to college right now for business analytical.
good.
And what I believe is you're right. I think parents should drive their child and to help them say, hey, if you want to do this, there's alternatives, make this alternative if you want to, or if you want to do this full time for schooling, then you could do it full time, to be that job you want to be as a career. So I
Yeah,
think that really has you can actually use it to a benefit, right? When you go to school, get that degree.
I think so. I mean, a lot of people would. There might be people who disagree and say, "Hey, listen, like maybe you would have fought harder or put everything on the line," but only a small amount of people are ever gonna make it, man.
Yep.
There's only one Conor McGregor, man.
Yep.
Everyone else is grinding. I know fighters now in the UFC who are grinding, man, grinding. Even if you're making, you fight 2, 3 times a year, it's not enough. It's not enough. The money's not enough. It's so tough to get in that top division. But I push. I tell. Here's the thing. What I tell the young, the fan, the community who wants to get into MMA. You got to be so gifted. I'm talking about like you have to be super talented. Like you go into the gym and in like 6 months, you're like you pick up moves like a sponge and you're athletically like an animal. Then you have a chance. But don't it's not worth pushing unless you have the genetics, the talent, the IQ, and the discipline. If you're just going to half-ass it and say, "Hey, I just want to do one fight, 2 fights," that's not going to work. Those are the guys who get their face punched in. It's just not. That's my personal opinion. Um, so there's only a small amount are really going to make it. So I could see the guys in the gym who are super talented, and then there's guys who are super talented, and they just lack the discipline, or they just lack something, or the marketing, or they can't talk. They can't. You know what I mean? All the
Mhm.
stars have to align for these fighters. You might be the greatest fighter, but it's going to take you 12 fights to get on a UFC card because you can't market yourself, or you've been killing it, and the UFC doesn't want to give you a fight because you're not marketable. So there's so many factors, but
Oh,
hats off to the guys who are still grinding it and keep pushing it.
look at Covington. Covington said, in his interviews, right? He said pretty much he's truthful. I believe he's truthful when he says, and everything. And what he said is that they were going to cut me, and they told him that, the UFC said that if he didn't start ramping it up,
Yep.
that's when he changed his view. And now he's like he's getting a title shot soon, and he's just amazing, And I
Yeah,
just
he's
like
watch.
I like how he is.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for
But
sure.
I mean,
And
it's just amazing seeing him how much he transitioned and changed and everything else and what he's doing, and then
yeah,
like how he gets underneath in certain ways. He does a he people say well he imitates Conor McGregor. No, not really. A little bit, but not a lot. He does his own thing. That's why I tell her Conor McGregor is just a there's only one Conor McGregor, like you said. There's
yeah,
not going to be another. There's not. It's going to be very, very hard to see another Conor McGregor like that.
yeah,
There's only one Patty. There's only one
yeah,
Patty out there.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
and there's only one Anderson Silva. That's why I say to this day, there's only one Anderson Silva.
Yeah,
Uh, there's only one like Forrest Griffin. There's only one of Forrest Griffin out there.
yeah, man.
And so I mean, when you got in UFC, you got the UFC, and then I tell a lot of people, like you said, um, I used to work out like I got off work, I'll go work out. I used to work out like 6 days a week, right after work. Boom,
Yeah,
discipline, nonstop, mixing it up, and then jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling, everything you could think of. and I would pay it all, right? You have to be diverse and everything. A lot of people don't understand you have to be diverse. So,
Yeah.
um, but it's just amazing seeing that people, the evolution now. Look at uh the new champion at 135 pounds. I
Oh
can't
yeah.
think of it.
Sean
Uh,
O'Malley
Sean
and
O'Malley. Yeah.
yeah, Aldro. Yeah, those guys are developed. I trained with Aldro for years. He's a freaking stud, man.
Yeah. I mean,
He's, he's developed so well.
Aljo, yeah, he's amazing. You know,
Yeah,
he's amazing. And I watched him progress and do everything, but
yeah,
I want to see how he, what he does and everything in the future because I respect what he does. And like I said, like Token Choke challenge, the tournament carry on there trains at Matt Sierra's
cool.
gym. So
Yeah,
it's very cool because I actually got where you're at, in New York, you said, right? New York.
yep.
Um, I got a message from Extreme Cage Fighting for pay-per-view. So to put our podcast on there. So it's pretty cool to see that because they I talked to the owner and everything. He was a really nice guy. So it's really cool to see, different evolution of how he helped out, that transition of that part too of the number one MMA marketing and everything. So but on your side, what's the future, man? What's the future? Do you ever get an itch to come back sometimes and fight?
Well, no, no, I'm not fighting MMA. I might do a little jujitsu. I do have fun rolling around. I've been training. I still train at Renzo Gracie, New York City, Renzo Gracie Fight Academy in Williamsburg. I train mostly with my coach John Callistine. So we kind of trade off a little bit. Sometimes I show him some MMA things so he can have some fun, and he shows me sport jujitsu no gi. That's super fun because actually I couldn't do sport jujitsu before because a lot of the moves were like you would just get punched in the face, but now I can roll around and turn on my head and barambola and all of this craziness that you wouldn't really do an MMA fight, but
Yeah.
you can get away with. So I've been doing that. I also train with Mike Jaramillo in the city, and the guys there at Henzo. So, but I'm debating maybe having a little jujitsu match in a couple months just for fun, just for fun. Old guy like me. So we'll see about that. We'll see about that.
No, I mean like oh God, I mean look at George St. Pierre, he's coming back again,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he's doing that. That'd be awesome to see you back, in the grappling side, It'd be cool to see
Yeah.
that. I would
Absolutely.
love to see
Absolutely.
that. I definitely I like a lot of people are like the Token Choke, for the guys that roll there. And when they
Yeah.
do that tournament, I'm gonna do a break, I'm gonna do a free it's a youth when they have their YouTube channel on, I'm gonna do my breakdown and kind of
Cool.
watch it, kind of, transition moves and everything else because
Cool.
a lot of people don't if you're not like into jujitsu like me or you, a lot of people don't see the greatness of the transition of everything that goes on behind the closed doors of jujitsu. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Yeah.
it's
It's
amazing.
so much intricacies involved
Mhm.
with the moves in jujitsu. So, yeah, I'm happy to be. I'm like hopefully going to be a participant there. So, you might see me. You might see me.
That'd be awesome. No, that'd be cool because I'd be really pumped up to see you and
Yeah.
to really see how you do and everything
Yeah.
transition. And again, it's all for fun. That's why I tell
Yep.
people it's have a good time. It's for fun and
Yep.
to see what everybody does and everything like that. So, but I mean, what else is you got anything else planned career wise? Anything else you want to dive in?
No, just man, I'm just living a
Yeah,
regular old
man.
life, man. Doing some traveling.
Yeah.
But exercise, health number one. I exercise every day. I don't care if I'm working 12 hours. I'm gonna exercise. I'm gonna eat healthy for the most part. I'm always looking at ways of improving my body. I did martial arts for so many years and fought, but now it's more of like a longevity type of health environment that I'm interested in. So I push myself, but not too crazy where I hurt myself or but I'm really just trying to enjoy life and stay healthy, live a long, healthy life. So that's what it's about at this point.
Awesome. Awesome. No, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and everything and really talking about what you've done in your career and what the future endeavors and everything. And I can't wait to see you in a tournament. So it's gonna be really awesome to see you there and to
Yeah,
see how it all goes. So I really wish the best for you, and we
thank
will be in touch to really,
you too.
talk in the future, just so you know. And tell everybody where to follow you at and from there.
Yeah, you could just follow my Instagram or my Twitter account, Philippe Nover, um, and keep you posted. If you guys got
Awesome.
any make questions or nursing questions, maybe I could help you.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Everybody make sure to reach out to Felipe and we will go from there and appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. Hey, and we'll talk to you later. We'll keep in touch. Thanks for coming on again.
Thank you. All right, take care.